1、2、3 ，OK。好，我们等一下的活动会在3点钟准时开始。那洗手间在你们的右后方，然后在你们的左侧左手边这边有红茶跟咖啡，大家都可以自由的取用。好，我们等一下的活动会在3点钟准时开始。 好，各位现场以及线上的朋友，大家好，欢迎参与今天的座谈冠军的秘密。大家感到兴奋吗？呀，好，我是巨大集团全球行销部门的 Jeff 姐夫，那负责国际车队与选手的赞助活动的安排，跟大家一样都是三铁的爱好者哈。这次非常荣幸的邀请到2位世界冠军，但我个人其实觉得更荣幸的邀请到这么多台湾的精英与教练选手一同来这边交流。那我们今天探讨的主题会包含科学化的训练与工具、生物力学、人车设定、周期化的训练，以及运动营养学跟心理学的部分。那在活动正式开始之前呢，我想先邀请本次的活动主办单位自行车文化探索馆营运总监 Howard 来为各位讲几句话。我们欢迎 Howard。
各位现场的三铁大神以及线上参与直播的观众，大家下午好。我是自行车文化探索馆营运总监汪家浩 Howard。那非常欢迎各位今天来到自行车文化探索馆。探索馆是在2020年的7月2号落成启用，是创办人彪哥在退休前的一个心愿。能够有一个实际的场域来跟社会大众沟通自行车文化，让各位能够在很有效率的时间，能够去更了解自行车，同时爱上自行车。那刚刚我已经简单的带领了现场的这些朋友们一起做了一个简单的预告，我相信大家都相当有收获，也希望各位能够带你的朋友带你的这个三铁的兄弟们一起来探索馆参观。好，那接下来我们欢迎我们的巨大集团全球这个品牌长 Phoebe。
各位精英教练们，让我很崇拜的教练们，还有线上热情的粉丝，好，谢谢大家今天在这个现场在线上，我也要谢谢总监。自行车文化探索馆举办这一次的讲座。那我是巨大集团品牌长 Phoebe。可能很多朋友都知道，2019年当一顶顺泽宫的帽子跑进去尼斯70.3的世锦赛冠军的时候，大家都很傻眼。好，我们也很傻眼。可是呢，我们比较厉害的是，我们马上就动手。我们 Giant 品牌呢就签下了 Gustav 展开我们的合作。那半年之后呢，他的师兄出来了，没关系，我们还有一个品牌，独立的高端碳纤零件品牌 Cadex， 我就说可以啊，那我们就用 Cadex 跟 Christian 展开合作。所以这2位师兄弟也真的是很妙哈，非常可爱这几天如果大家有追踪我们的这个粉专的话，看我们的限动，应该会觉得真的很了不起。那可是签完了之后呢，开始合作的时候呢，这个疫情就来了。疫情中断了全球人们的交流，可是我觉得它并没有阻止这2位师兄弟在全球征战各大赛场，拿下一座又一座的奖杯的决心。所以呢，这3年他们也用非常非常好的成绩，也向我们证明，也向大家证明，他们其实是实至名归的世界冠军。所以呢，现在疫情好不容易趋缓了，我们就在今年，在他们所有的赛季都结束之后。我们就说，那你要不要来台湾看看？来看看你的车是从哪里做出来的？来看看台湾这个宝岛人们有多么的可爱？再来看看这些粉丝对你有多么的热爱？那他们就很好，从阿布达比比完他们最后一场之后，就直接飞到台湾来。那么今天呢，我们就跟他说了，这么多专业的教练们来这里听你讲，肯定是要得到很多的答案回去。他昨天已经答应我了。他说：“我一定会知无不言，言无不尽。”我说：“非常好。”所以呢，待会儿大家可以好好的问他们，听听他们是怎么样训练出来的，也把你们想要的答案带回去。
好，我们掌声感谢 Howard 以及 Phoebe。那我们先请入座。好，那我现在来介绍一下我们现场与会的来宾哦，包含北部的选手们 ，Kona 选手 Dylan、小葛、陈汉、东神、茂哥 ，OK， 然后精英铁人情侣兼教练胖胖佳佳， 还有光武、玉板，请跟大家挥挥手。然后曾经是我们台湾青奥选手应成，然后国家队的教练志祥。中部空拿的选手包含士官长廖斌宏、贾斯汀、纯洁、怡安，然后 Estera 台湾总一燕庆 ，Estera 亚锦赛精英组第6名的阿根，分龄组凸台常客焕文、文远、灿龙 ，OK， 还有我们知名的 Bike Feature 与功率教练 Eddie 以及阿喜。那其他南部地区包含 FXT 第1名 ，Norseman 第19名的范老师。精英铁人情侣兼教练 Estera Kona 世锦赛选手耀宇千游。那国家队的选手，那现任是三铁教练修身、李伟、裴岩，以及我们捷安特的经销商，也是分龄组凸台常客兼教练的国志。OK， 最后，我想邀请我们今天活动的主持人 Dylan 上场。Dylan 是我们北海岸吹风团的火车头之一哦，非常强的一个选手。那我们就请 Dylan。
谢谢 Jeff， 谢谢大家来。我要介绍我们的选手，大家蛮多人认识我，所以我给你们介绍。So I'd like to welcome Gustav and Christian, two men who don't need much of an introduction. Welcome. Welcome. 我们很幸运他们来了，我们就给 Christian 介绍一下。我们大家知道他是东京的 gold medal. Congratulations to that. World Triathlon Championship Series, first overall. Ironman World Champion, 世界杯的 St. George. 还有 Sub 7, 他破7个小时。And then Gustav, 世界杯 Kona 今年的冠军，还有70.3的冠军，所以我觉得大家都很熟，所以我们要不要浪费时间，我们要开始问问题。So we'll get started with some of the questions. So we'll start off with. Okay. So just to give you guys an introduction to our audience, we have members from Kona Championship Athletes Age Group 70.3, Xterra, Norseman, Asia Games athlete. We have a national champion here, which is quite an honor, and age group podiums. So audience of Taiwan's most passionate elite athletes and coaches for triathlon. So we'll start asking the questions and give you guys a chance to talk. We'll start off with technology and coaching. So one of the issues that everyone's curious about is if you could briefly introduce the scientific metrics that you test and regularly measure, and if you could explain why. So we're interested about things like blood lactate, metabolic testing, the core sensor, VO2 max.
Yeah, I feel like we're diving straight into it. No warm-up, we just go straight into the data. But we use a lot of different things, but I think to focus on what we're using, it's kind of the wrong way to look at it, because the devices we use is a need for. So we don't just do a device and then find a need for it afterwards. So we have a specific needs in our training. For example, we have a need to be exactly on threshold, because we know at exactly on threshold, that's where we are most responsive in our training. So that's why we need a device that can tell us, are we under threshold or over threshold? So we have several devices that do that. So we have first and foremost, the lactate meter, which is a bit slow to use because you can really only use it in your breaks. But then we have other devices, like also a blood saturation device that can give you a kind of indirect feeling of your threshold or not. But the devices we use, as I said, is only if we have a need for something in our training.
所以刚才说他们用很多不同的机器。他们的机器不是因为要用机器，他们有一个训练的特色，他们需要测什么东西，所以他的意思是说，他会专心他们的 threshold 是很准， 所以他们用不同的方法。所以一个是那个我们大概知道那个 lactate， 所以那个乳酸，他要很专心用那个。还有他讲那个 blood saturation， 他是用他的比较准的方法知道他们的 threshold 在哪里。所以每次他们在训练，他们真的很郑重他们的。就是他们的成绩，这是他们的是准的，是他们的影响是最多的。
And on top of that, we of course use the heart rate, the power for the bike, for the run. We have tried out the power meter for swimming, like paddles, trying to measure it as we swim. There has been some early prototypes, and also the oxygen mask. And so we are really having also the core sensor that can give us the core temperature, but also how much heat the body is producing in terms of a power number. And yeah, so it's a lot of sensors, and it's just for me and Gustav, it's too much that we would even go lost in all the data if only me and him was looking into it. So we are very lucky to have a big team that's helping us. So from all the companies, they're also helping us understanding the data. So I think if you want to start with some metrics, you want to start simple. So I think in the beginning it's the power and heart rate to understand that correctly and get an understanding how it goes over like the duration, so you more understand the basics behind the numbers. So you can still learn how to use your heart rate. And I think for me, even with all the numbers I have now, heart rate and power is still the two most important ones.
所以 Christian 介绍他们用很多不同的资料，那还是公路期跟心跳还是最重要的。他推荐我们要用这个资料从那边开始，真的了解我们的心跳跟我们的 power， 公路期都是最重要。他也说他们有试试看用游泳的公路期，所以这是放在你的手，他们再试试看用这个方法。还有他们说公司发明这些东西都会帮他们了解他们的资料，所以他们还在基本上是研究这个科技，看他们有什么资料以后了解他们。所以意思是说他们觉得那个资料真的很重要，可是他也强调他有非常大的队会帮他了解这个资料，所以这是他们的想法是有很多资料，我们这个很清楚，可是了解这个重要是最重要。所以 Christian 他的意思是说，我们真的要了解我们心跳跟公路器的资料，然后从那边开始发明用不同的资料。
And also when you're implementing sensors, it's not like you straight away only look at that number. So for example, if you're starting to use the glucose number, you don't change directly on the day. It's more like we have it maybe on us for 2 weeks in the training, collecting data, trying to see patterns in how the body is responding on the hard training, the easy training, and then maybe after 2-3 weeks, we try to see if there is some pattern that's often happening. So for example, in the beginning when we used a sensor to measure the stroke per distance in the pool, and we saw that often after 300-400 meters, I tend to change my cadence or frequency in the pool. But that was more because the training we did, or the way we were building up the program, was just short intervals. We did 100 meters in the pool or 200, but we were never extending it up to 800 meters on the hardest sessions. So then we used the sensors that was giving us this information to build the training more around the information we got.
所以就是你意思是说，他们用他的资料，就是要用一段时间以后看有什么结果。所以他给我们一个介绍，一个例子是游泳的，他们会看他每次游一个转速，他会动多少公尺，然后他们发现短距离他都没有变，他的转速的速度都一样。可是后来他开始有400公尺还是800公尺，它会变。所以他们说用这个资料就是要注意有什么影响，那要一段时间会了解从哪里有那个影响。Okay. Did you guys want to add anything else to that? Is there?
I think it's a lot of questions. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so one of the questions we would like to know is about how to embrace and make good use of these new technology and data, and how your coach helps you trust the data and how to make decisions about how you train using the data.
Yeah, so it's more data, it's more problems sometimes. So usually it's really hard to implement these things. And me and Christian, we're really lucky because we have a lot of people around us that can spend time analyzing this. So, for example, going into Kona, I made some new shoes for that race, the On shoes. And it's easy to put on a foot pod and then kind of analyze the power data and see which shoes is fastest. But we had multiple days of testing, multiple shoes of testing, and we had a foot pod that was even more advanced than a normal one. So it took one girl like 2 weeks to analyze everything. And yeah, if you're gonna spend 2 weeks analyzing just one pair or one metric, it's basically impossible to implement it. So I think do the training first with as little device as possible, and then when you feel like you're in control of it, then you can try to implement more. But for me and Christian, we obviously have a huge team, so it's okay for us.
Okay. 所以 Gustav 好像说有多的资料有多的问题，所以他是说你要专心，你可以了解。所以他给我们一个例子，他们试用他们的跑步鞋，所以他们有一个 sensor 放在那个跑步鞋，要看哪一个鞋子对他来说是最适合的。所以他们花很多时间，有用跑的以后，就是要看那个资料。还有他们有一个人，他花了2个礼拜，就是真的要算那个资料，算很清楚，哪一个鞋子对 Gustav 的跑步的方法是最有效。所以我觉得，他觉得我们就是要从基本开始，了解最基本的东西，以后慢慢要加新的东西。要不然他觉得，如果他们没有他们的后面的队，就是帮他们用这个资料，他会说太多资料，你就不会知道怎么决定你的训练或是你的选手哪里可以进步。
Yeah, and I think it's yes, as Gustav said, like if you do all the different sensors that we're using, it will be too much, and you will sort of go lost in all the numbers. So you want to start getting so you feel like you understand your own heart rate, you understand your power, you understand how the cadence is working compared to your power, and then from there you just try to experiment a little bit with yourself and see, for example, if you do a bigger block of lower cadence, and then you see if that can help you getting more stronger on the bike, or opposite, working more with higher cadence and see how that's going to impact your power. So not be as scared of trying new things and using the numbers to see if you can increase those numbers.
所以 Christian 同意 Gustav 的想法，简单的是比较好。他强调我们要自己要试试看新的方法，所以他给我们脚踏车的例子，我们的转速可能变慢，看你的翻译是什么，你可能变快还是变慢，所以要用那个资料、心跳跟公路器了解这个影响。还有他说我们不用怕改变，试试看新的方法，比如说他有快的转速，可能也有帮忙。所以他的意思说不要做太多了，就是专心你自己的影响，以后不用怕，试试看你没有试过的，在你的训练中可以发现新的方法进步了。Okay, and so the next question, I think, the core question people want to know is about how to make that decision between how you're feeling, say you're feeling great, and the data says you're not doing well, or the data says you're doing well, but you don't feel great. How do you guys make those decisions? Which one to lean on?
That's a tricky one, because often the less, like if you taper too much, so if you, for example, if you have a big race in 2 weeks and you start tapering down too early, then you will often feel great in training the last week, because your muscle fibers will adapt and you will get more fast twitch. but that's going to be maybe be negative for your race on race day. So even though you will feel more sharper standing on the start line, you will have that more like punchiness, but that's going to be much more costly in the end of the race. So sometimes feeling can trick your numbers. So it's more like understanding how the numbers is working and then adjusting your feeling accordingly to where you want your numbers to be.
我问 Christian， 他会相信他的资料，还是会相信他的感觉？所以给他一个例子，如果他的感觉是非常好，可是他的资料不太好，他会相信哪一个？他说这个是很复杂的问题，因为我们的身体可以骗人。所以他给我们一个例子，如果我们要减量，2个礼拜，一个比赛前2个礼拜我们开始减量。他说，如果他减量太多的话，我们比赛之前训练，我们会觉得很新鲜的很快。它是因为我们的肌肉的反应是我们不要的，它会比较多的 fast twitch 的那个肌肉，所以我们会觉得很快。可是到比赛的时候，因为可能休息太多了，这个 fast twitch 的肌肉会对我们的身体比较辛苦，那我们可能那个时候比较容易会爆掉这种的问题，所以他是说你要相信资料，还是你要相信你的感觉？他没有说很清楚，他就说很复杂，所以我们要了解那个资料跟我们的身体的感觉以后。
So to illustrate this point, the weekend before Kona this year, we raced on the Saturday. So the Saturday before the race, we did the whole swim course plus the whole bike course. And the day after, we did almost the whole bike course plus, 40K running. And like 4 days before the race, I had pain walking down the stairs. So feelings can trick you a bit, and it's tapering too much is not a good option if you're racing the Ironman.
所以他强调减量太多真的有不好的影响，所以他们前1个礼拜，那男生今年是礼拜6比赛，他们前1个礼拜6，他们所有的那个3800游泳游完了，骑车的骑180都是他们的比赛的强度。第2天他们也骑大部分的那个脚踏车的路，快到180公里，以后跑40公里，而且都是很认真的。那他说比赛之前 ，Kona 今年4天对不起 ，Kona 的4天之前，他要手拉楼梯，他很酸，他的肌肉真的很酸。可是我们都看到礼拜6 3天以后他的结果是什么，所以他的最重要的强调是减量不要太多了，对他来说是很重要。That's a really big weekend for you guys. 我可以问 Christian, did you use the same weekend, both of you?
Yes. So we had basically the same lead up into the race, and they were also doing such a race specific weekend before help us also practicing nutrition, the stomach, taking in the right amount of calories as we will do on the day, and also doing something that's so similar to the race, that close, gives us a more realistic understanding of what power we can do. So for example, if we the week before was struggling to hold 280 or was feeling super great to do 320 watts, then that's an information that we can use on race day that last week we could actually push quite hard. So now we can go more aggressively into the first half of the bike, or opposite that. Last week I didn't have the bike leg that I wanted to have, so maybe I have to be more reserved in the first half of the race, and then hope that I can have the run leg in the end.
所以 Christian 加上去这个比较减量的好处是，他可以练习他的营养的方法，所以他比赛的营养他会知道这个有效，还有他可以看他的数值，比如说如果他觉得身体没有那么好。他骑280瓦可能有一点辛苦，他会知道比赛的那天一开始要轻松一点，不要太认真。或者是如果他是320瓦，他在那个前1个礼拜，然后他会知道他比赛的状况，他可以 push 比较多。所以这个想法我觉得是跟传统的想法 蛮不一样的，很特别的，所以 ，Thank you.
But before you start implementing this into your tapering schedule, if you go into a race and suddenly you are in Hawaii, you have time to train more, and then at home you maybe train 10 hours because you have work or kids or whatever, and you come to this tropical island and you have so much time, and then you have time to do 20 hours. That's not the way to go either. So you have to find out what your baseline is and take it from there.
Gustav 讲的很重要的，要小心。如果我们习惯在台湾练10个小时1个礼拜，以后我们去夏威夷有很多时间可以练很多，突然上到20个小时1个礼拜，这个方法不太聪明，不太会有效，所以我们要考虑他们的正常的训练的量跟他们那个前面的周末，所以我等一下会问他们清楚他们正常的训练是多少，我们可以看。
So this sort of tapering could maybe work more for you over a sprint distance or Olympic distance if you train 10, 12, 13 hours, because then you're in one day. But if you're suddenly having a 10-day training day, then you are using the amount you're used to train for a whole week in one day, and it will take you that whole week to recover. So it can work better for a sprint distance.
所以他说这个减量的方法是比较适合短距离5150，因为他说你一天用10个小时，那可能是你1个礼拜的量，你放在一天以后，你做那个训练，你恢复的时间会更久，是因为你身体不习惯。所以他说这个比较难的减量的方法，就是越短的距离比较适合，长距离可能我们要考虑一下。So we'd like to move on to biomechanic technique, these kind of coaching advice. I think a lot of people want to know about that. And one of the questions that came up was, what kind of biomechanical testing that you guys do to analyze motion? So for example, on the bike or on the run or even in the swim, what kinds of technology or techniques do you use and your coaches use to monitor how you swim, bike, and run?
So we don't do the visual biomechanic thing, and I think I got told like I'm running nicely. You look good while you're running, and Christian we got told, oh, you're so hard when you're running. It looks so full of effort. But the only way we use to analyze these things is through actual cost, and actual cost for us is measured through the respiratory system, so the VO2 mass we can use at the track or in a lab. So actually Christian's running economy is extremely good. So even though it looks kind of heavy sometimes, or like it looks like he's running tired, it's actually really good. So we don't do the beauty contest triathlon, we do the most efficient way.
就我问他们用什么方法看他们游泳、骑车、跑步的那个姿势，还有他们的跑法。Gustav 的回答真的有意思，他说他们没有用看的，他说很多人跟 Gustav 讲，哦，你跑步很轻、很漂亮，你都很快。或者是人看到 Christian 会说，你跑步的部分没有那么漂亮，有一点重，有一点累。可是他说，他们不要用这个方法算，他们就是用他们的机器，用氧气以后速度，所以他们可以测他的身体要花多少 calorie， 以后他会有什么速度，所以他们会知道什么方法、什么跑步的姿势对他们的身体不一样的，比较快、比较省力，不会浪费他们的力量。那他说，其实 Christian 跑步。连他没有看起来跟 Gustav 的那么漂亮，其实他的非常非常快，是因为他没有浪费他的力量，所以这个标准真的跟传统的方法也是有点特别的。
And swimming is maybe that we're struggling the most, but there is a sport there is the least feedback you can get on data. So there we're working together with Form to try to get more information from a swim stroke and also get live feedback in the glasses.
所以他说游泳是没有那么多资料，是可以 可以看他们游泳的 efficiency。所以那个 form 那个蛙镜的公司，他们在跟他们合作，所以可以有方法，会有资料可以放在他们的蛙镜游泳的时候，他们可以测哪一个姿势，他们的游泳的姿势哪一个是最会胜利。真的是非常特别的，不知道。
And also, out of the three sports, cycling is maybe the one that people think is the least technical sport and the sport where you can do the least drill work to improve your pedal face and your riding. But that's maybe where I at least feel that I can use numbers the most. For example, if you use the Garmin pedals, you can get a really accurate view on where you're starting your power face and where you're finishing it. If you think like the whole pedal phase is like a clock, and then if you can able to start it a little bit earlier and finishing it maybe 10 degrees later, then you're increasing the whole phase where you can create power. And by having this on my computer in front makes it easier to target something. So there I use the sensors to always chase like 1 degrees extra and get a little bit stronger pull phase.
所以他是介绍我们他骑车的强调的地方，他是说很多人以为只是游泳跟跑步就是要专心我们的姿势，他也说骑车也很重要，所以他会用那个 Garmin 的公路器的那个胎盘，所以他会看他如果他早一点开始推他的那个胎盘后到下面，他可以看他的 power 哪里进步，所以他放在他的脚踏车的电脑，所以他训练的时候。他会专心这张的资料，所以他进步他骑车的方法，所以他不是就是要去随便骑车，看他可以多快，他在看他的动作是对还是不对。
And some of the drills I do on the bike can be that I can do 5-minute intervals on an easy session, but it's not an intervals of intensity, but I try to only focus on the first part of the pedal phase. And then I can do 5 minutes normal riding, and then I can do 5 minutes where I really work with my hamstring. So I only focus on the last part of the cycle phase. And by that, I also make the easy riding more enjoyable if I'm riding by myself, because then I have some technique aspect to work on. And then when I'm really pushing hard, then I know from the drills how I can start earlier and how I can finish later on the pedal stroke.
可是说他要去骑很轻松骑，他还是用那个时候特别注意他骑车的方法，所以他有推荐一个 drill 可以做是骑5分钟，他会注意他用他的后腿的力量，就是慢慢骑，专心他在用它。以后他说他用认真骑的时候，很努力的训练的。他这时候会知道那个感觉在哪里，所以他可以用他比较多的肌肉，然后骑比较好。所以他也说轻松，他可能觉得有一点无聊，可是专心这一场的 drill 可以那个时间比较2个方法可以恢复，还有可以进步我们骑车的方法。Gustav, do you want to add to that? Or?
I'm good, yeah.
You're good, okay. So we also wanted to know if you have any preferred drills, some kinds of swimming drills that you found very useful, if you guys kick when you're swimming in the pool, and what about running form, if you do drills for that?
We usually don't do any drills at all, so unless we have a problem kind of we want to fix, and the only way to fix it is through drills and not through actual just swimming, then we can find some drills and implement it, but we never do just the drills to do drills, really.
Okay. 所以问他有什么练习的方法要进步，有什么方法他会做？他说基本上他们不会做这种的训练的方法，他会做就是如果有问题的话，他们觉得没有办法从就是普通的游泳、骑车、跑步来说进步了。他们会做，可是基本上他没有说这个是很重要做 drills， 他们只是要注意他们所有的动作。
So
the closest thing to a drill, I think we come to the swim, is like Christian do on the bike also, to only focus on one small part of the stroke. And yeah, you try to change it up. Like today I'm swimming wider or narrower, and then you see a video and you can see absolutely no difference. So even though you're feeling like you're swimming like this, you're like changing your hand like this. So we don't do any drills, but I try to play around a bit in the water while I'm swimming normally.
OK， 他也是说那个跟 Christian 有一点像，他骑车用那个这是有意思，他游泳他也会，所以 Gustav 说有时候他在游泳他会玩他的手会放很近还是放很宽，然后他说我后来我看那个 video 以后，发现他的手都没有动，他是基本上差不多，可是他的感觉是他会动很多。所以基本上 Gustav 的意思是，就是要让他的训练好玩有趣，也可以用这些方法，可是他觉得没有什么大的差别。
So we believe it's very important to be very specific with the training that you do. That is very similar to what you actually want to improve. So if you want to become better in running, you have to run. And so we don't do any run drills either, but we do try to play around with the shoes we are using. So we don't always use carbon shoes. For example, we can use some very minimalistic shoes that's stretching out the lower leg more. They might be slower on that training session, but you will get that extra stimuli in the lower leg. So when you put on the carbon shoes again, then you will have that extra strength in your leg muscle to take advantage of the shoe. So using that more, implementing that into the daily training.
所以 Christian 说他的普通的训练的方法跟比赛的方法这是很像，他们不会做其他的没有在比赛用的。所以他给一个非常重要的例子，用跑步鞋，他会用比较简单的、比较细的跑步鞋。他说可以把他的后腿后面的肌肉可以拉长一点。那个时候他训练那一天他会跑比较慢，比他的 carbon 的鞋子的速度。可是用那个方法以后用 carbon 的鞋子，他的力量会比较好，所以他会训练会帮他的比赛的方法。可是没有做特别的不同的 running drills 那种的动作。
And I think my version of running drills that have helped me now is that I have been running a lot in trails and the mountains and everything. So my ankle is pretty stable and strong, and that makes my shoe options even wider. So with my new On shoes, they are extremely high and also really narrow. So if you don't have a stable ankle with those shoes, it would be a big struggle to run a marathon. So I'm lucky in that sense because most of my competitors wouldn't run in my shoes.
所以 Gustav 说他用跑步那个越野跑还有山上的路，他会做这样的训练，所以他的脚会比较强，还有比较稳定。那这个好处是他可以选择比较多的鞋子会适合他。所以他给我们介绍他的 On 的鞋子，今年蛮有名的，很厚很高的鞋子，还有他说很窄，所以他说大部分的他的选手，他的 competitors， 他们自己不能用，因为他们的脚不够强，他们会很辛苦跑42公里。可是因为他在训练越野跑跟山上的路，他的肌肉可以接受这个，所以他跑山铁的时候可以用这个鞋子给他一个好处。Okay, thank you. That was a good question. We were also curious about how often you guys will do a bike fitting session. How often you tweak your position and those kinds of questions.
It's been weekly almost for me. No, it's special this year because it's been more like the long distance focus towards the IRONMAN project. So I still feel I haven't found the position yet. So I've been in the beginning in January, I was going quite extremely forward, up with the handlebars, and I tried to get used to that position both muscularly, first of all, but also when I went out in the course in St. George, it was just so unstable that I wasn't confident to be in it in the crosswind. So then I had to go further back and down again, and I feel I haven't been able to activate the right muscles. So it's been mid-season, a week before race. So ideally, I would like to have like one position that I'm really that I know that I'm good and strong on from the winter training, and just keeping the whole position the whole season. And that's how I have it on my road bike. And but I feel I have to sort of chase that position on the TT bike.
所以我问他，他常常会调整他山铁车的姿势。他说今年不一样，是因为他专心226的助理，所以他说差不多每一个礼拜他要调整他的位置。那他给我们一个例子，到5月的世界比赛之前，他的姿势很前面，还有手很高。那他觉得有2个问题，第一个是他用那个姿势他会抽筋，他的肌肉不习惯那个姿势。那另外一个问题是他在比赛的时候发现他的汽车不稳定的，他有点不敢握着那个位置，因为风会侧他有这种的问题，所以他就说今年他会前1个礼拜要比赛前1个礼拜还在调整他的位置，他在弄他的椅子的高度这种的问题，所以他说他还没有完全满意他的山铁车的姿势。那他讲一下他的公路车，他有一个姿势他很满意，都会用。可是他山铁车，他有那个抽筋的问题，有点不能控制脚踏车的问题，还有他就是没有自信那个位置，他还在教他最好的姿势。
So earlier this year in Canada, when Gustav was winning and I was cramping up on the run, then maybe 6 days before, I felt like I'm not that strong on the bike that I wanted to be able to stay with Gustav when we did intervals. And I thought, okay, should I go up with my saddle, down with my saddle, back, forward, and I brought it a little bit up. I tried first down, and I took it up again, and then I felt, okay, this is how I should ride. But then when I came to the race a few days later, and I felt like it was strange in the muscles when I started running then. And it was like a little bit pain, and it's, yeah, you better find your position at least a week before race.
他说在加拿大他有压力要跟着 Gustav 在他的骑车的速度，所以前1个礼拜他在调整他椅子的位置。他本来放低一点，以后放高，然后决定 OK 我要用高的。然后他下车开始跑步，他的肌肉不舒服，又开始抽筋，所以这个影响当然很大。所以他就推荐强调我们要确定我们的位置是适合我们，不要等到前1个礼拜以后开始乱跳，会有影响我们的比赛。I'm glad that professionals have some of those problems too. Okay. And this is a related question. Because you both do short distance and long distance, how long does it take you to adapt to, say, a lot of tri-bike riding and a lot of road bike riding?
After St. George, the 7.3, we had been on our TT bikes only for 3 months almost, or we had 1 week in there. But then we had the race in Bermuda, and we came to the island of Bermuda on a Wednesday, and we had the bike delivered there. So we had Wednesday evening ride, Thursday, Friday, and then race on Saturday. So we had 3 sessions on a road bike before the World Series race there, and that's not a flat course, it's like a lot of uphills and cornering. But the strange thing is, I felt great just jumping on the road bike, and I think I was one of the best handlers in the group as well. So for me it was really, really quick, and same for Christian. We had an awesome race there on the bike, and yeah, I guess it's the new Propel.
OK 我问他们要习惯山铁车到公路车有什么方法？他说从5月到10月底，他们都骑山铁车，完全没有骑他们的公路车。然后2个礼拜之前，他们要在 Bermuda 比赛，要用公路车。他们到那边是礼拜3，还没有骑公路车。礼拜3晚上骑，4、5都骑了。他说礼拜6比赛。 他觉得他的状况非常好，在他的公路车超好的，还有他说他可以控制他的脚踏车很顺，比其他的选手这个有帮忙，所以他基本上说没有很大的影响，他们睡很快。Kristen 也是。
But I think it's harder to go from a road bike to a TT bike, because on the road bike you can always like go out of the position. You're not locked into the one position, and you have to stay there for the whole race. So and also with your shoulders. So I think for a TT bike, I would ideally have maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks to get used to it.
Christian 说，从公路车到山铁车比较复杂。因为公路车你可以跳来跳去，你不用只是一个握住一个位置，所以他说你要从公路车到山铁车，最少你要给你自己2个礼拜习惯，让你肌肉习惯那个姿势。
But next year we will try to do both. So we will do the World Series races and also race the PTO races, which is the 100K distance, and to be able to make it a little bit smoother transition from the two bikes, I think I will be traveling with both of them, and then maybe do like once a week on the KDX bike, and then do the rest of the session on the Propel. So I still know both feelings, so it's like a smoother transition.
他说明年的比赛的时间，他会有长阻力跟短阻力，所以他会旅行的时候，他会带他2个车，那个 KDX 跟他的 Propel， 所以他可以2台可以习惯，所以不会那么难，那么辛苦。因为他说 PTO 这是100公里的山铁，所以汽车是80公里，会用 KDX， 所以要用那个趴着的位置，其他的要用 Propel， 所以他是要2个脚踏车要带，所以我们也要。A related question, I don't know how much indoor training you guys do, but when you're on the indoor trainer, say in long course, do you ride in the aero position, or do you watch TV, or what do you do?
Yes, so we do most of it in the air position, but in the winter it's not that important. You're usually quite far away from the race, so it's more to have some sort of comfort in your training, and yeah, I mean it is better if you do aero, but if it's uncomfortable and you don't enjoy it that much, it's better to just getting more hours in a more pleasant way. But the closer you get to the race, the more and more should be in aero position. And if you are 2 weeks away from Kona and you have to train indoors, then I would say 99% of the indoor riding has to be in air position.
所以问他用训练台的时候，他会用他的山铁车趴着还是坐下来？他说你比赛之前很久之前你不舒服趴着，那不需要，你就可以站起来，就是坐起来骑车舒服，这是比较重要。可是你快到你比赛前面的时候，那段时间，你一定要用趴着练你在你家用训练台骑车。所以我觉得他说就是比赛之前要趴着，之前看你就是要骑车，就是还是会有帮忙。So the big question I think a lot of people ask you, we would like to know how many training hours a week you do regularly for short course and also long course preparation. What's a week of training look like for you guys?
I think the reason why we've been able to go so quickly from short course to long course is because we have always done a lot of hours. I guess when we started going to training camps almost 10 years ago, we were then even doing like more training then than we do now. We had like the weeks of 40 hours, 39 on the biggest weeks, and then we were juniors. So we haven't actually increased the hours in the training, but it's more like we try to use the time better now and be like more precise within the intensity and understanding more what we have to train to get ready for the distance.
他说4年之前他们年轻的时候，我问他们1个礼拜训练多少，那10年之前他们开始差不多40个小时1个礼拜，那现在他说没有变多，可能变少一点点，可是他的不同的地方是之前他们就会比较随便练，那现在比较专心，每一个1个小时，他们知道有什么目标，以后真的在专心做到那个训练的方法，不是随便练，他们真的专心每个小时 有最大的效果。
So I would say the biggest limiting factor of our training volume is the calorie we use. So 1 hour of training at 275 watts is about 1,000 calories. So if you train 4 hours on a bike and you average 270 watts, plus an hour of run, an hour of swim, you burn like over 7,000 calories a day. And to eat that every single day, multiple days in a row, is quite challenging. So we try to stay reasonable when the calories burn, so we have always control and we're not getting injured or sick, and can stay consistent.
所以 Gustav 的回答是，他的最大的 limiter， 他的训练的量就是他的 calorie 可以进去。所以他给我们一个例子，他说他骑275 watt， 1个小时要用1000 calorie， 所以他骑4个小时要用4000 calorie， 还有去跑1个小时，他会消化快到7000 calorie。所以他是说，你要看你训练的量，你一定要专心，你练的时候你可以吃回去那个 calorie， 所以它不是时间的问题，是我们可以吃的、可以介绍的这个影响。Okay, all right, is that okay? So I think we got the big day every day. So with outside of swim, bike, and run, do you guys do any other kind of training, massage, strength training, stretching, those kinds of things?
Christian was just famous now for going on a Rich Roll podcast and say, we never do any massage. And then after the race in Bermuda, we had some free massage at the Athletes Lounge. And who was laying down there? That was Christian. But he said it was only for pleasure, not for performance. So it's a different thing. So to answer your question, no. We are trying to be as specific as possible. And we had a period 4 years ago now where we tried to implement strength training to improve our swimming. We did some pre-tests before strength training and after, and I got insanely strong in the gym. I could do a lot of muscle ups with additional weights on, but in the swimming pool, no improvement. So yeah, we try to keep it specific.
所以我问他们有做其他的运动，就是比如说重训还是按摩。那 Gustav 有点开玩笑说 ，Rich Roll 我不知道你看过那个 podcast， 这是 Kona 以后 ，Christian 说我们都没有做按摩，都没有做。然后 Bermuda 完赛以后，他很有名是因为他在那边按摩，所以大家都说，你说你不要做，Gustav 说这是因为这是很开心，让他很舒服，不是因为他可以比赛快一点。那中训的事情，我问他们说 ，Gustav 说，4年之前他们要去设中训，可以帮他进步他的游泳的，所以他们 pre-test 是之前测，以后后来测，他发现他在健身房变很强，他可以做很多动作，可是他去游泳一模一样，他都没有进步他的速度，所以这是为什么他们就专心游泳、骑车、跑步，没有做其他的运动。
And also normally outside of swim, bike, and run, we do nothing. So this week has been quite intense, being around at food market. We've had a great time, but for the next 51 weeks, I guess we will only swim, bike, run, sleep, eat. So that's how our normal day look like.
他说他们游泳、骑车、跑步那么多，他们不会做其他的东西，除了吃饭跟休息。可是他说他这个礼拜来台湾，他非常开心。他们去夜市吃很多东西，我知道他可以问他们怎么样晚一点所以他就说这个礼拜以后51个礼拜，他要回去专心游泳、骑车、跑步，所以他们真的是就是专心这3个很认真做的。
But we do some easy warm-up on land before you swim. So because of the high calorie usage, we can't just kind of waste time in the water, just spending time swimming for 2 hours. So we use some time, so we get in the water, then we're kind of ready with some stretching and really light gym. I wouldn't call it strength. It's more like, yeah, activation exercise on land. So that's the only thing outside of swim, bike, run.
OK， 所以它加上一个是游泳之前，他不要浪费时间在游泳池里面暖身。他们在游泳之前会暖身，就是拉长他们的肌肉，或是很轻的重训，就是要把那个肌肉会动，所以他们会不要浪费时间暖身在水里面。所以这个是重要。
So the recovery do is basically just sleep and eat. And when it comes to the nutrition we eat, it's probably not what you would consider as a healthy diet because it's so much carbs. Like in the training, it's a lot of sugar through the sports drink. But that's what the body needs for the training. And also after training, we need the carbs quite quickly. So it's about understanding the balance there and also there to get a better understanding of what we're eating. Both of us has done like a period over a couple of months. We've been weighing everything we have been eating, putting it into an app, and then understanding where the carbs are coming from, the proteins, the fat, so you know what you're eating.
他说他的基本的营养的方法是，很注意他吃什么，可是他会说不会算很健康的东西，因为他吃很多甜的东西，是因为他要那个碳水化合物，为了他的运动，所以他说训练的时候他们吃蛮多的果胶，还有训练完以后要马上吃那个碳水化合物那种的东西。那他说他们最近3个月就是用一个 APP， 就是要每天就是要测他们吃多少的量，每一个东西他们都会吃，要写下来，所以他们会知道他们的脂肪是多少，蛋白质是多少，还有他们的碳水化合物。所以这个他们真的很专心，他吃的什么东西，还有他的运动的量是多少，这个是他的意思。Anything you want to add to the nutrition?
Nutrition, it's like a nutrition question later for racing or no?
Yeah, I would like to ask you for racing. How many carbs are you taking?
So for racing, we do high carbs. That's the key element for our racing philosophy. A lot of other athletes, they try to have a lot of minerals and salts and everything. We really don't believe in that, so we only go high carb. And by high, I mean high. We are doing way over 100 grams per hour. We're doing closer to 140 grams per hour. And yeah, that's quite a lot for most people. So it's not something we started doing like for one race. We have been evolving for quite some time, but we also have the best product available, and it's Morton. So it's yeah, it's kind of like a different way to use the sports nutrition. So a lot of people do gels, but for me, I only do sports drink. So for the whole Kona race, I think I did 2 gels, and rest was pure sports drink. So just a lot of liquid.
所以我问他比赛的营养是他用什么方法？那我觉得大家听到他会1个小时会吃快到140克的碳水化合物，所以他说真的蛮多的，大部分的人可能不能接受那么多。所以他说他们从很久以前开始练习这个，以后慢慢上来，所以他可以确定他的身体可以接受。他还有说他用 Morton 的那个比赛的营养的东西。可是 Kona 的时候，他只吃2个果胶，然后其他的都是从他们的运动饮料，就是那个 Morton 320，他会用这个在骑车的时候，所以。
And you ask how this is possible. So I have my bike from Kona here actually. So this is my Kona race bike, and I had this one made, which is bigger, so I could carry more liquid on my bike with sugar in it. So most other athletes, they would just have a lot of gels in here, but since I preferred having liquid, I kindly asked Giant to make me a part here. So this one is made for me for Kona, so I could have a lot of carbs. So behind the saddle, I had 2 bottles. Each bottle had 160 grams of carbs in it. This one had about 100 grams, and here I had around 400 grams of sugar. So in total, a lot of sugar.
他介绍他的 Kona 的方法，所以他的汽车家人帮他装那个 前面的水，可是他没有放水，他放运动饮料，他是说有400克的糖。那后面他也有2个水壶，他放160克，然后下面他有100克，所以他的意思是说他空的比赛他吃很多糖。
And also, to be able to take in all of those carbs on the race day, you obviously have to train on it, and you're training on to train up your guts to be able to take both the volume of liquid in, and also the carbs being absorbed in the stomach, and also being able to do it over hours, not just 1 hour, 2 hours, but 4 or 5 or maybe 12 hours, or how long you're racing. And when you do this in training, you're also getting a better training session in itself, because you get the same benefits you get on race day. You can then bring it on to the trainings. You can train at an even higher intensity.
所以 Christian 说，我们要吃东西，比赛的时候我们要训练，我们要用一样的量在训练跟比赛。他说有2个好处，第一个是我们肚子可以习惯接受那么多碳水化合物，可是第2个我觉得最重要的，他介绍说，我们在训练的时候，我们吃多一点，我们的那天的运动会比较好，我们可以骑比较快，比较凶，所以我们会进步比较多，是因为我们训练的营养也是非常好的。Okay, so I think we're going to stop the questions here to give everyone in the audience a chance to ask you guys a question. So Jeff will come on in.
OK， 那我们现场还有大约15分钟的时间后，有没有人刚刚有想到什么问题，或听一听之后有更进一步想要提问的，欢迎举手。那现场工作人员协助。
My name is Justin, and thank you so much for you guys to come over to Taiwan. Welcome again.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I have a couple questions for you guys. I'm so excited. First, I have 3 right now. So the first one for the Iden. I look at the video in a corner. I see the bottle in between your chest. What's going on with that? Tell me the truth.
Yeah, it's many people think it's like a deep thought about it, but it ended up being a bit random. So I had additional nutrition with me. So in my swim to bike bag, I had a bottle of water because you're swimming an hour in salty water. So I just wanted something to drink straight after the swim. So I have this bottle and I'm running in transition. And normally you would have a box with a bike. But I'm not used to doing Ironman, so I didn't realize you just have the bags, you know? It was no box at the bike. So then I ended up standing with my bike and nowhere to put my bottle. So at first, I just put it in my pocket behind, but it almost fell out. And I obviously was watching the ladies race 2 days before and saw how many penalty that's got handed out, so I didn't want to lose it. So instead of having it in the pocket, I put it in here. But I also did test it in the wind tunnel earlier, and I found no benefit for it, but it was also no disadvantage. So I decided just to keep it in to make people a bit like curious about it. So the plan was to just throw it out at the first opportunity, but it stayed with me for the whole bike leg.
Thank you for the answer.
Justin, can I just try?
Okay.
I'll just translate it quickly. 就是问他 Gustav 他骑车的时候，他有一个水壶在他的手部，他说有告诉我们有什么秘密。那 Gustav 说没有什么秘密，他是说他本来放一个水壶，就是要水可以清掉那个盐水的感觉。然后他习惯 ITU 的规定是，他们脚踏车旁边会有个盒子可以丢你的东西。Ironman 没有这个，所以他不要被判了，是因为他有乱丢的事，所以他就放在他的胸部。那就是让大家怀疑这个有什么好处。他也说他去那边有车那个会有影响，他说没有快没有不好，所以都 OK。
Yeah, thank you for that. And then for Chris, I have another question. So you win a very important 2 races. One is St. George 7.3, and also the Arizona. 7.3, and also the other one is the Olympic, Tokyo. And you kick off in the last minute. What make you decide to kick off at the right time? Why? Are you waiting for the guy to burn out and then you kick off, or you kick off just no matter what happened?
It was a plan in Tokyo, and it's just like that. You have to find your timing. Like if you want to go for the win, you can't just sit back and be in second position all the time. You have to make your move at one point. And I've tried before going with 6K to go, but that's awful. That's a long way. And then you have to dig with the pain yourself for well over 15 minutes. And I've tried to, or haven't tried, but I know that I'm not fast enough to go the last 100 meters. So I have to find that sweet spot where I'm, where I feel the distance left to the finish line is short enough so I can just sprint the whole way, but also not too short that the guys behind will be fresh enough to take me, because I don't really have the leg speed. So I just have to find that sweet spot. And I feel a K.5, 2K is suiting me really well. I can take advantage of my high VO2 max and my capacity, and I can almost be running at top speed for the whole 4 or 5 minutes. So I find it to be perfect. And also I use the same strategy in Yokohama a few weeks earlier, in Lisbon the week after, and in many of my races. So I feel confident with on my left.
所以就是问他在东京的奥运的时候，他跑步的时候，他有一个计划，要什么时候要加速，还是就是要看什么状况？那 Christian 说他这个是一个他的计划，他说他试过好多次，之前他会有从6公里之前开始跑最快的速度，他说那个是15分钟很辛苦，不要做，他这是做不适合他。还有他说他自己不能等到100公尺就是以后开，因为他说他的脚的速度不够快，其他的选手可以比100公尺会比他快，所以他在调整那个阻力，他发现他1.5到2公里的时候到终点，但是他的最好的机会可以跑掉，所以他说他用这个方法3个4个比赛以后发现真的有效果，所以如果你发现你在 Blummenfelt 比赛，你要记得2公里，就记得。Okay.
Hello, my name is Ken, and I will speak Chinese. So, 我的问题想问 Iden， 就是在2019年以前，就我想这顶帽子真的是非常神奇，就是带着他拿下世界冠军，同时就是被捷安特看到，然后有获得非常多的资源。但我想其实真的有蛮多选手，包含我想 Iden 在过去也都是很优秀的选手，但可能没有被品牌商注意到。那现在其实在不管世界上或者是台湾，也有很多很优秀的选手，很努力，然后可能没有被发掘。想问他说，在这一段时间，就是他从以前就花了每周40个小时在训练，那对于这些还在沉寂，然后还在准备的选手，有没有什么心境上或者是建议可以给这些正在努力的选手 ？Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Gustav, he would like to ask you, before you were discovered in 2019 with the hat and winning the 70.3, what your triathlon motivation was and your experiences were like as an athlete that didn't have that international recognition, and what kept you going and motivated during that period of time before you reached that level of success, and how you would encourage athletes that were in that situation you were in, how to find a way to make triathlon their career.
I think if you start doing triathlon because you want to be famous in Taiwan, it's going to be a really hard career for you. So my motivation was, always to become the best, but that's not the day-to-day thing I thought about. It was just that I love being outside, and even in bad weather, but it's better in good weather. I just loved training in general, and I love the feeling of improvement. And what's good about triathlon, you always have at least something to improve. So on the swim, I have a lot of things I can improve, and the bike is, you have always some metric you can improve. Either it's power data, or as Christian talked about earlier, like improving the angle a bit on the stroke. And for running, you can have a bit better running economy. So what I find enjoyment in and motivation in was just finding small ways to improve. And since then, it's always become better and better. And now I have international stardom, or at least in Taiwan. But my motivation is still the same. And it's kind of easier to not be recognized international because yeah, if you do bad, you don't feel like you're letting anyone down. But in other way, I got to experience a lot of cool things, like singing karaoke with Phoebe.
所以他说他的一开始的目标就是他要当非常好的选手，他是他的最大的目标。可是他说你每一天你不可以用这个想法进步了，所以他说他喜欢三铁是因为你在外面可以训练，他很爱那个感觉，好天气还是不好的天气，他还是很爱去外面练习。还有他说他其他的他是就是可以一直进步。三铁我们有3个运动，所以每一个选手还是可以进步那个小小的东西，然后看那个结果在他的训练的还有他的结果。那他说他变有名以后，在台湾他说变有名，可是那个压力有大一点点。如果你去没有完赛，也会有压力，你会觉得你让别人失望。所以他说之前他没有这个压力，所以他就说你要进步三铁，就是要爱那个生活，那个运动的生活，去外面骑车、跑步这种的。
My name Thomas。我想要请问他们，就是他们在寒带地方训练，那如何适应那个热带的地方的比赛？
要习惯那个地方还有比赛的地方吗？
就是他们住的地方是在北欧嘛，很冷的地方训练，他们比赛的地方，比如说到东京或是到夏威夷热的地方，他们身体是怎么适应跟怎么训练的 ？Thank you.
Okay, so my question is about how do you acclimatize to different climates from where you're living and training to when you go to a different climate for races? How do you handle those kinds of changes? I think also if you could add how you handle differences in food for athletes.
Yeah, so I think we treat both altitude and heat a little bit the same way as we try to do 3 weeks maybe in and around the condition that we will go to, and maybe even a bit warmer or higher. So if we would be racing at 1,500 meters of elevation, then we would go up to maybe 2,000, 2,300 meters and stay there for 3-4 weeks and get that adaptation that we need for that altitude, and then we go down again. So we almost feel that this condition is easy. And the same we did going into Tokyo. So while a lot of athletes was maybe born in warmer countries, Mexico, Spain, Australia, that you might think is better suited for racing in the condition we had in the Olympics. They felt that it was quite warm on race day, but we did the preparation, the acclimation part long enough and well enough that when we come to the race, then it actually feels comfortable and we can get out the potential.
他说他基本上会用3个礼拜到4个礼拜要习惯高度跟那个天气的温度。所以他给一个例子说，如果他比赛是1500公尺的高度，他们去训练的地方3个礼拜到4个礼拜会2000到2300公尺的高度，所以他们比赛的时候他们会下来，其实那个比赛的情况会比较简单，比他们训练的环境简单。他还有给例子是东京的奥运，大家都担心是很热很闷。他说其他的选手从比较热的国家，西班牙、澳洲、墨西哥这种的国家，可能会有一个好处，因为他们从挪威来的。可是他说没有，是因为他们已经习惯比较热、比较闷的环境，以后他们去东京，他觉得温度不是一个问题。
And also one other big aspect is time zones. So from where we're training to Hawaii, it is 12 hours time difference, and that's a huge jump. So we do time shifting before we do travel. So what's normally practical is change like 5 hours or 4 hours. So if you change more than that, it's quite hard to get access to swimming pools because you have to wake up at 2 in the morning. So not much is open then. So we usually end our time shifting around like waking up at 2 and then start training at 3:30. And then we do like 1 hour a day and then 30 minutes a day for about a week.
他也加那个时差的问题，所以他们从挪威到 Hawaii 是12个小时的时差，所以他们还没有开始旅行，他已经调整他们的时间，所以他给个例子说，他们大概可以10个小时，所以他们会一大早2点醒来，然后开始凌晨3点开始训练，所以他们到要比赛的地方，他们已经开始调整他们的时差。
And since we love these devices, we also have some devices to help for this. So we have some special goggles that shoots lights into the retina. So in the morning, we can kind of simulate sunshine. So we have some full spectral light shining into the light or into the eyes, so we get more wake up in the morning. And in the evening, we put on the darkest sunglasses we have. So we sit indoors looking cool with some sunglasses.
他说他们也有特别的眼镜，他会把量放到他们的眼镜里面，所以他们通常会比较习惯那个时间，他们要去比赛的地方。还有他说晚上他们都会在家里面，还是戴很黑的太阳眼镜，所以他们看起来很酷，可是这是为了他们比赛的成绩。所以我觉得我们现在的时间快没了，所以我们要给大家机会，要前面。Take one more, Jennifer.
我们先拍一个大合照，好，大家先来拍大合照。等一下后面还会有时间给大家个别的签名合照，哦，所以签名的东西先不要拿。